Welcome to episode 10 of Untamed Social. Thank you guys for taking this wild ride with us this season. It seemed super fitting that we would do sort of a Q&A for this final episode of the season. So we polled our listeners and we have a couple of questions that we are going to answer for you guys today. So the first one is a really good one, and I feel like it was a good one for me to answer. The question was, how do you balance professional and personal use of social media? And I'm thinking this would be something for people who do own a business, or if somebody is like maybe a business professional or in the C-suite. And so I think that the best thing you can do there is really think about you are your brand, in essence. So I remember somebody saying in a speech really, really early on in my business, who you are anytime is who you are every time. And that's always resonated with me. So like when I'm posting on social, I'm realizing that like, obviously somebody could see this, and it could affect my business in some way. And at the same time, like, I'm trying to be conscious of what I'm saying, but not be overly cautious. I could give you some funny examples. Like, there was one time I said the word asshole in one of my blog posts, and somebody on my team like was really like, you should not say that in a post. Like, what if one of our clients read that? That would seem so unladylike. And I was kind of hung up on it. So I actually went in and like blurted out the word. And I went back and realized that it's kind of unrealistic to think that. Like, I mean, I get that it doesn't look that great, but it's one word in the blog post, and I don't even know that client would be reading it. What are the chances? And if they're not going to work with me anymore. At the same time, you really have to consider it. One more funny story. This is my favorite one, though. So, our biggest client found us. I had a blog post on Medium, and the blog post was called "Get Real, Shit Happens." And I did not know that this was how they found us. I got the call and he said, I found you on Medium. I read one of your blog posts. And when I found out where he was from, I got super paranoid. I was like, oh no. And I actually took the blog post down because I didn't want him to see it. When I met him in person, which was almost a year later, I come to find out that it was that blog post that intrigued him. So it goes to show you that sort of being yourself on social media can be okay within reason. So when you're balancing that, you kind of have to be authentic too.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the age old, like, you're going to attract people who are very similar to you. Like, your best clients, your best customers are actually going to be very similar to you. So if they're not in alignment with you saying asshole on a blog or something like that, then they're probably not going to be in alignment with you as a client either. And I just stand by that the more that you show up as yourself, the more you're going to find the people who are truly going to work well with you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'll say that maybe not everybody at that organization would have agreed with that blog post, but that particular leader did and found me, and he was very forward thinking, so you just never know.
It worked out.
It worked out. All right, let's move on to the next question. So, right now we're in December and the new year is approaching. So could one of you offer maybe one or two key insights that could help businesses thrive in 2025?
Yeah, Lainey and I actually just talked about this on our podcast. I think it was like 2 episodes ago. And we were talking about our predictions for 2025. So this is a great question. Going back to you guys literally just talking about being true to who you are on social media, I think that is going to be huge in 2025 for businesses, because I feel like every year businesses and brands get more authentic online, and they see that people want to see the real and not something advertised or something that is very scripted on social media. They want to see the real you. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that in 2025 for brands. And then another one is experimenting with video content. I think that apps are getting way more developed. I mean, YouTube just started with the 3-minute videos. So I just would take advantage of those new app developments like 3-minute videos, and that will be helpful for your brand in 2025.
Yeah,
I feel like we're
I
all
agree.
kind of.
So I was just saying I agree.
I feel like we're all kind of on the same wavelength right now. I just wrote, we do blog posts, as Rachel mentioned, and one of them that I just wrote is about what sets like the really successful creators and brands apart from people who see like a mild amount of success is there's a couple of things, but one of the things that I talk about is being true to yourself and like being authentic and kind of not being afraid to just kind of put your whole self out there. And that can be really scary. And that's why I think more people don't see success because it's terrifying. But I think that's one of the key differences that like will set you apart from just being like an okay social presence to like pushing you above and really helping you see that success.
Yeah, and Rachel just shared a Mark Schaefer blog post with us earlier this week that really went deep into that, like talking about Jaguar as a brand and how they're so mediocre, right? As a luxury car brand, nobody knows about them. But and most people that you know, they're not purchasing those vehicles; they're going with Audi or BMW or Mercedes. But they've really like taken a step out of the box when it comes to luxury brand marketing. And another example will be Nutter Butter. Like, what is Nutter Butter doing? Nobody knows what Nutter Butter is doing except like raving on TikTok, but taking acid and doing what they do, I guess, when they eat cookies. But they also have like their name is everywhere right now. I mean, it's trending,
Yeah.
and so they're getting their name back out there and they're getting noticed. And so stepping out of that box, like you said, and really just taking bold moves is what will set you apart.
Yeah, you're talking about them. Whether it's good or bad, like people are talking about them and they're memorable. Like they're staying with you because of the things that they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that saying like any press is good press. I kind of agree with that. Obviously, if it's bad press, that's not great. But I think like controversy and like divisiveness can actually be really beneficial if you do it correctly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, just along that line, I saw John Webster posted this Jaguar ad on Facebook of the Teletubbies and Jaguar, and he goes, "What were they thinking?" And I said, "This is exactly what we're talking about. You're talking about it, right? You know?" And he's like, "But if you position this incorrectly, like it could blow up for a brand, not a brand like them. You know, like they're talking about them, so it works." You guys are right. So what are we going to do next year? We'll see. I'm curious to see what we're going to do for our clients and get them out there in a different way, these decisive strategies. All right, the next question is, how do you constantly post to show customers what you do without being boring or repetitive? Well, the one thing I'll say for that is that we do what we do every day, and we don't realize that we have so much knowledge that is not actually boring and repetitive.
True.
So I'm just like, for example, all right, I'm just gonna play a game here. Anna, tell me one thing about Canva that drives you crazy, that most people probably don't know about.
In order to find the creator of like one of those little graphics that they make, you have to click like 3 different buttons, and they moved the original button from where it was. So it's an elaborate step to find images that are coming from the same designer and thus look identical or in the same theme. Yeah. And sometimes you get lost in the clicking menu and you have to start over. And sometimes I have to close my laptop because I get really stressed out.
And this is why her blog post has the most reads on entire year, the #1 blog on Trello this year. But you have all of these nuggets in your head that you don't realize because you're working in it every day. So the thing is just to draw those nuggets out. Think about all the questions that you're asked every day, of the things that you do every day, and figure out how you could tell your audience that. And just to do it in a different way. Like when I'm getting a massage with Vixen, I'm just fascinated by the things she knows. I'm like getting in her head about all the knowledge that she has. But she thinks she's boring. She doesn't know what to talk about. I'm just fascinated by her. So you just have to be thinking that way.
I totally agree with that. I think also like people don't realize how frequently people skip past their stuff on social media. And you do have to say the thing however many times to get it through to people's brains. And I really do like what you're saying about
how it doesn't seem boring to average people. It only kind of seems boring to you. Like, my mom is an abstract painter, and she's just starting up all of her socials, and she's so confused on what to post about it because it seems so small and meaningless sometimes. And I'm like, take a video of anything. Take a video of literally anything, and it will not be boring. It will not be repetitive. It's exactly what you need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the other thing people forget is that content on social media is so short-lived. Like,
Yeah.
odds are no one is going to scroll back through your feed 6 months ago, a year ago, even a month ago. No one's just scrolling back that far. And once your video goes out, it might have some traction for a couple weeks. Maybe if it's on TikTok, maybe it's a little longer. But after that, it just kind of gets lost in space in the Netherlands. So I don't know where it goes. But all that is to say, like, you can absolutely share the same thing. Don't feel like you're ever being too repetitive, because you're not. People probably didn't see it, or they need to be reminded of it. I wish that I could get that through to some of our clients and just anyone on social media feeling like, oh man, I have to come up with all this new stuff all the time. No, you don't. Just do the same things you're already doing.
Yes.
Well, and if you look at, like, your blog post, Ella, when you talk about, like, the big players of social media, they're formulaic. Nara Smith makes every video the exact same, and people eat it up every time. If anything, being repetitive is an advantage.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. Literally, the repetitiveness is, like, it's so funny because, like, if you look at our Strella Instagram, this week we have a post going out, and it's just a single image about social media being one piece of the marketing mix. Next week we have a video going out, it's a reel about the marketing mix, and that social media is just one piece of it. Now, they're the same type of content, but we formatted it differently. If you're not testing, then you're not going to be able to see what is resonating well with your audience and what's not. What type of content do they prefer to consume over another? And so for me, I feel like, they're 1 week apart, but at the same time, we're gaining a lot of information and insight from testing that same type of content in different formats. So for me, I'm like, repeat all day long, even if it means just tweaking it. I almost said twerking it a little bit. Tweaking it a little bit. And
you can do that too, if you want. I don't know.
If you want to. But yes, tweaking it just so that you can get some data to understand what your audience actually likes to consume.
Speaking of twerking, one thing
Wait,
one thing I'll say is that I think people think sometimes that their content is boring because they're expecting that instant gratification. Like, you post something and you're expecting all these likes and comments, and that's not realistic. Just because you're not getting that instant gratification doesn't mean people aren't reading it. You know, if they're not interacting, like, it doesn't mean that it's boring and not sinking in.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's all the little pieces that, like, build up over time.
Right.
That people get to know you, and then they get a full version of who you really are.
Right. Exactly. Okay, on to the next question. This is a really good one. All right. I recently came across a post from a local business owner who praised a social media company for spending hours on site gathering content and working closely with their team to understand their business. As a virtual company, how do you ensure the same level of connection and engagement with your clients?
So I would love to take this one on. I think that our success is really evident whenever you actually look at our testimonials, our case studies. I mean, there's a lot of support showing how successful we are with our clients. But I think that there are two ways to really measure that too. Number one, if you look at our team, we're all remote, we don't work together, but the fact that we all have such a great system, a really great connection together, it shows that each of us is really committed to that communication, not only between ourselves, but with our clients as well. I also think it's an advantage to be virtual. I think it makes us more available. Are we there all the time to come and capture content? No, but at the end of the day, that's not really who our ideal client is. Our ideal client is somebody who's involved, who's willing to do the work, and isn't looking for us to just fully take over everything and them not be involved. Like, we have to have their involvement in their accounts and their social channels. So that's not exactly who we're going for, but that's not to say that we don't take that extra step to have that face-to-face time. I mean, yes, we're not there once a month, but we are having Zoom meetings with the majority of our clients once a month, if not every week, every other week. We really are flexible with working with our clients and what works for them, because a lot of times you have business owners, they don't want to meet all the time. I mean, they're in a place where they're like, I'm busy, and we understand that. So our job is to be really effective in the communication side of things, but to a point where they're able to do their own thing, manage their business, and check off their task list every day without having to worry about the social media side of it. But it does involve them to some degree. So yes, it is an advantage to have somebody come out and get content. But we do that too. We have clients. I know Jess is going out in a few weeks to a client to gather some content. It just depends on who that client is. But for us, that's just not exactly the client that we're looking for to work with.
Yeah. I think that question kind of implies that, like you were saying, like we would just come in and do everything. And ultimately, like in order for any client to see the most success, they're going to need to have some involvement and some buy-in. So either way.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm lucky that I live close to the client that I'm going to see in a few weeks. Sometimes I do wish that we did have like that in-person type of getting content, but at the same time I'm happy that we don't, because there is like so much involved in what we do. I would feel like we would need an extra person whose job was completely to capture content. Like it couldn't just be one of us. We would have to have an extra person, and that was their job.
Yes. And I mean, and the companies we work with, like they have an in-house team that can provide that content to us. So our job is to be really great at executing, really great at strategy, really great at all of those other things. We don't have to necessarily be the one on site gathering all the content too. So that's the good thing. And one of our core values is relationships. So if we have a really strong relationship with our companies that we work with, and really great communication, also another core value, we can do this job just as great, if not better, than another social media company could. So I'm not going to take that question personally.
Well, I think that's the other side of it that I think people can get confused about, is that we're not just a social media management company. We're social media management and consulting. So we, most of the time, the majority of our clients, we're not just managing their socials. We're also consulting with them on their strategy. We're giving them lists of ideas for content. We're structuring videos for them, giving them hooks. I mean, we're really in there doing the work, and it's more than us just taking a picture and posting it.
Yeah.
It honestly feels like an entirely different set of services to have someone gather that content. Like, yes, while they are for social, it's not really the service we provide at all. Like, we are much more focused on the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah. I mean, it's supporting service. Like when I go to Vistage, I'm able to get a couple pictures if we have some local clients there. It enhances it, but it's not what we do as a primary thing. It's nice to have it as a sort of a side piece.
Yeah. Well, and we have clients who have sent products, right? So I know that Anna has worked on that recently. True. I know Ella has made content in the past with products sent by some of our clients, and she's made her own videos and own content from those products sent to her. So that's always an option on our end also.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Next question. I love this question. What's your strategy for managing trolls without letting them ruin the vibe of your page?
Yeah, I might have an answer that clients might not want to hear, but I would say just don't look at it.
Yeah.
And I say that because it's kind of like we were talking about earlier. I don't think that divisiveness and controversy is a bad thing. I don't think you need everyone to love you. Obviously, it's different if you have actual trolls who are like harassing you and like trying to, ruin your page and ruin your reputation. You can deal with that separately, either through blocking them, or maybe they're just mad about, a customer service interaction they had with you. You can try and mend that relationship. But ultimately, I would say just kind of don't worry about it, because at the end of the day, even if it's troll engagement, it's still engagement and people are still talking about you. So I guess my strategy for managing trolls is just try not to let it bother you too much.
Yeah, I feel like at this day and age, it's inevitable. And no matter what
Yeah.
platform you're on, you're going to have somebody who's going to have something negative to say. And it is unfortunate that that's how it is these days. But, I mean, you really do have to just kind of turn a blind eye.
Yeah, that's just kind of the name of the game. I'll literally see like the most wholesome video. It'll be like a dog or something, like doing something cute. And you look at the comments and someone will say something like, something I'm like, I would never have even thought of that. Like, that is so bizarre. But so like, that's just kind of what comes with the territory of being on social media.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here though and say that, you know, you have to differentiate though between a troll and like just somebody who is generally unhappy, you know, and like a bad customer service interaction.
Yes.
Because that can really lead to a downward spiral when it's not handled well. And I think this is a good sort of selling point for our company too, because you know, we have a couple of customers who they have people on their page who have customers that, you know, have issues, and how we resolve those issues is really important. So it doesn't ruin the vibe of their page. If we just ignored them, that would spiral. So
Yes.
I do think it's really important that some things are handled, you know, with care, I guess I should say.
Yes.
Definitely. Customer service,
and
if it's related to that, yes. I mean, that's just like core business 101. If you're not doing that, then you're in a world of problem, and social media is not going to be the answer to your problems. But so I do think that there is a distinction there between those. But if it's just somebody who, like, we had a customer, and one of our community managers emailed me yesterday, and they were saying that, you know, they were never going to watch this TV show again because it had something in the background that they didn't support, and we were awful people for doing it. And it was like, you're a little crazy, you know? Like, and sometimes you just have to decipher, like, are they crazy, or is this like a legit thing, you know?
Right. Or can I actually fix their problem? Like,
Right.
'cause like you were mentioning, we have a couple of customers who do have that customer service piece, and people are talking about, hey, you know, I paid this, but I never received this service, or, you know, I got charged more than I thought. And that at that point, you're like, this is a real customer. This is not a troll, and we need to elevate this so that we can take care of this and do some like reputation management so we can keep their relationship and their trust with their customers strong.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's like
I
the
thought-
bean soup TikTok thing, where it's like someone was making the bean soup, and someone was like, what if I don't like beans? And it's like, well, then don't make the soup. You don't have to cater to every single comment that's coming your way.
Yes.
You'll spend your days replying to bean soups. if you
Yes.
do that.
Yes, okay. I'd like to know how, or if it's possible, to have a substantial social media presence when someone is camera shy.
This one makes me think of, have you guys seen the lady on TikTok, the Queen of Afternoon Tea? And she goes around, and she blew up recently, and she goes and she does afternoon tea tastings, and she gives them her full review, but she is very, very camera shy, and so you never see her face or hear her voice because she entirely warps it. And so she's definitely found a way around it. I think the one thing I would advise is, if you are camera shy, being like a person on social media and being that active in it might just be kind of an emotionally draining path for you to go down. And
True.
if it's really that much of a struggle, I would really sit there and say, okay, is this something I genuinely want to do or need to do for my brand or business? Because if it's going to be hard, if it's going to have this limitation on it, you're not going to get it done at the quantity or quality that you need to.
That's
Yeah.
so true.
I think there's levels too. Like, I have a friend who, kind of similar to what you were saying, she never shows her face on camera, but she does voiceovers, and she shows like her beadwork and her crochets. And she's had a lot of videos blow up. And so I think that still kind of works, because obviously, like, it's still content that she's filming, and you still get to like hear from her, so it feels real. I think the problem is when we get like brands or businesses and no one wants to be on camera and they're like, just use like stock footage or like just use AI. And it's like, that's not going to work. Like we need a little, we need something, right? Even if you're not like willing to sit in front of a camera and film yourself, like we got to have a little something or it's not going to work.
Yeah. That actually, we had a prospect who came to to us a couple of weeks ago, and one of his big things that he said was like, "Look, y'all are gonna have to come up with the content from scratch. I'm not getting on camera. I'm not, doing this." And unfortunately for us, like that's impossible. Like we'll never get you results. Now, I'm not saying that you do have to be like camera facing all the time. But at the end of the day, people buy people. Whether you're selling a product or a service, people buy people. So it doesn't mean that you have to be, in the camera. But like you said, like hearing your voice, hearing your personality, those are ways that you can like get around that camera shyness, but still show up and be present.
Yeah.
And please don't use stock footage.
Please.
Yes, please.
Or AI footage.
Or AI generated stuff. No, it's awful.
As someone who is camera shy and was very camera shy at the start of joining Strella, something that Lainey told me was just to pretend like you're on FaceTime with a friend. And doing that while also just like getting the practice of doing it multiple times was very helpful for me. I would find myself doing like kind of like a run through take of me going through what I was wanting to say or do in a video, and then once I kind of got into a comfortable mode, I would refilm it and do it in my mind better. So that's just some advice that you could physically do to help yourself change, because like Anna was talking about, if this is the career path you want to be in, you have to find a comfortable place that you can do that. And this is the career path I want to be in. So I had to do that step. I had to get rid of my camera shyness.
And now, like, if I'm like, I need a video, she's like, I'll do it.
If I know the topic, I'll do it.
Good for you. Like anything, you have to work at it. You can't just expect it to you just can't expect results without putting in some work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Here's a question. This is an interesting one. All right. So I'm a graphic designer specializing in book design. My target group is mostly seniors who want to publish memoirs and the like. My problem is that they don't want to know how to make the books. They just want them done, and I can't figure out what to write about. Most of the stuff I feel like writing would interest other designers, not my target group. Any ideas?
This one's interesting because Lainey and I were actually talking this one over today, and we were thinking that that kind of content that would appeal to other designers would still appeal to seniors who wanted their memoir done. Some things I could think off the top of my head are like POV, your memoir looks like this, or POV, your memoir comes in the mail and you didn't have to lift a finger. And it can still be the process of you making it and you discussing it, and you get to show them how much work they don't have to do to acquire it. You could even be like, this took X amount of hours and this amount of labor, and it can be yours, and sort of frame it in that way so it still gets to be about you and what you want to talk about and what is easy to think of. And I think that would still have value for the client.
Yeah.
Check. You did that. Yeah, I mean, I'm with Anna. I think that sharing your process is still going to be helpful. Like for us, we share a lot that like kind of caters to other social media managers. Like we show our behind the scenes, our processes. Ella just made a video on Notion and how we use Notion. And do you think our clients care? No, they probably don't care. But at the end of the day, it does give you more insight into how we work in general and what it would be like to work with us. So keeping that in mind is really important, because if you want somebody to actually feel invested enough to, buy your product or your service, then they need to like see the down deeps into what it's going to be like. And if that seems like it doesn't appeal to them, that's just because that's in your head. It probably would appeal to them.
Yeah, and I feel like showing them what you can do and showing them the beautiful ins and outs of it will show them that, hey, maybe they can't do that, but I can, or you can do that for them. So they're like, I want your services because I see what you're able to do.
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't want to do it myself.
Ever.
All right, one last question. And this one, oof. All right, let's settle this once and for all. Who's the shortest in the group?
I think it's Lainey.
I feel like it's between Jess and I.
Yeah, it definitely is, but I think it's Lainey. I'm 5 foot.
I'm 5 foot.
Oh, really?
It's a tie.
Oh, it's a tie.
It's a tie.
There it
Next
is.
meetup, we need a back-to-back
Yeah, well,
comparison.
we'll line you guys up like when you were little kids and put
Yeah.
marks on the wall. See if you can tell
I
her
will
next
say,
time.
I think Jess was a little bit taller.
Anna?
Yeah, I thought so too.
Okay, I'll claim it. I'll claim it, okay?
I felt
Maybe
like I
I'm
was
like-
looking down on you.
Maybe I'm like 4'11" and a half.
I think it was also when Jess and I would hang out, we'd be wearing shoes, and then when you and I
Oh,
would hang out, we
true.
wouldn't be wearing shoes. Maybe that's what it was.
Maybe. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because it was just a hair. I'm not saying like it was crazy.
Yeah.
Since Sean
My
Webster
boots
got
do have
blamed for this
heels.
question, which he didn't do it, by the way, Ella. It wasn't
I'm
him.
shocked.
He thought it was Jess, and I said, I actually don't think it is. I think it's deceiving because Lainey always wears heels.
I do.
So
Like, would you like to see today?
I think it's Lainey by a hair, but
Yeah.
we will find out. That'll be the real burning question for next time.
I really want to
Alright.
know who asked. Who was this?
All right, come out next time. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to the Untamed Social Podcast. Be ready for Season 2 next month. We're going to come out with more burning answers for your questions, and we're going to come out untamed. Are you ready for this? All right, guys. Until next time. See ya.
See ya.